In view of potential international changes, China must prepare in advance to respond to the possible victory Russia may achieve in the future. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has dragged on for years. Its eventual outcome remains full of uncertainty. If by 2025 Russia truly wins this war, it will by no means be an ordinary matter for China. The global geopolitical landscape will be reshaped as a result. Therefore, our country must plan a response in advance. Once Russia wins, whether in the military, economic, or diplomatic sphere, a series of profound impacts will follow. China needs to start from these three major dimensions, formulating the most thorough contingency plans. This move is not intended to oppose any country, but to stabilize our own pace of development, ensuring that national interests are not constrained by external factors. First, on the military front, the cornerstone of national defense must be reinforced, strictly guard against foreign incursions. If Russia wins the Russia-Ukraine conflict, its military strength will be significantly showcased. After victory, they may consolidate control over eastern Ukraine and even enhance their strategic position through negotiations with the West. This concerns not only Europe's situation, but also has a direct impact on China. China and Russia are neighboring countries, sharing a long border of over 4,300 kilometers. History has not been without turbulence. The 1969 Jianbao Island conflict, for instance, saw fierce fighting on the USS Uri River. It nearly escalated into a full-scale conflict. Although current China-Russia relations remain in good condition, no one can guarantee that relations between nations will never face storms. Once Russia wins, its military confidence may reach an unprecedented peak. It is not impossible that they may take certain actions in Central Asia or Northeast Asia. This would constitute potential pressure on China. Early deployment of countermeasures is necessary. China's border with Russia is vast, and both the northeast and northwest directions must remain highly vigilant. If Russia grows increasingly powerful, our border defense system will urgently need upgrades. Specifically, the frequency of drone patrols should be increased, satellite reconnaissance capabilities enhanced, and additional ground outposts established for Heilongjiang, Jilin and other northeastern provinces, as well as Xinjiang in the northwest. Troop deployments should be accordingly adjusted. No sticking to outdated practices, and rapid response capabilities must be greatly improved, so as not to be caught off guard when the time comes. This is not intended to start a war with Russia, but to build our own confidence and readiness, ensuring that, should anything happen, we are not passively beaten. Relying solely on frontline border forces is not enough. The overall modernization of the military cannot be delayed. If Russia achieves victory, its weapons and combat experience will undoubtedly have certain implications for us. China must accelerate the development of advanced weapons, such as drones, swarm stealth fighters, and precision-guided missiles. Naval power should also be greatly strengthened, increasing the number of aircraft carriers and destroyers built. After all, maritime trade routes must not be blocked by others. Military training must also be more combat-oriented, eliminating formalism. Resources must be invested precisely and efficiently, and scientific research efforts must be strong and forceful to prevent our technological level from falling behind others. This is not an act of aggression, but rather a fallback for the nation's long-term development. Central Asia serves as an important channel for China's energy imports. After Russia's victory, its influence in the region may further expand. China should, through platforms such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, deepen military cooperation with Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and other countries. making joint exercises routine to ensure the security of energy corridors. In the Southeast, as close neighbors to ASEAN countries, we should strengthen joint military exercises and security dialogues to stabilize the South China Sea situation and prevent external forces from intervening. Military security is not about standing alone, but about sharing pressure with allies. If Russia wins, its military presence in the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea will become even stronger, potentially affecting global maritime trade. As a major trading nation, China must have its own defense of its maritime lifeline. The Navy should actively venture into the open seas, increasing both the quantity and quality of its ships, conducting regular cross-regional exercises, and building a sound logistics support network in belt and road countries, so the Navy can sail far and possess strong combat capabilities. This is not a provocation, but a necessary safeguard for protecting national economic interests. Military preparedness, in essence, is about being ready to avert disaster. Our country does not provoke trouble, but neither do we fear it. Russia's victory is its own achievement, while China must have its own trump cards, ensuring that no force can easily knock on our door. Second, on the economic front, never tie all resources to one place, and ensure the stability of the nation's economic lifeline. If Russia wins, its voice in the international energy market will undoubtedly be greatly enhanced. Russia is already an important oil and natural gas supplier. Such a victory will further consolidate its position. Russia's energy exports already occupy a considerable share of the global market. China, as a major energy importer, has significant oil and gas trade with Russia. However, relying entirely on a single source would cause risks to rise sharply. After Russia's victory, its energy policy may become even more assertive. China must adjust its strategic layout to avoid being at the mercy of others. We should not rely solely on Russian oil and gas supply, but actively diversify risks. The Middle East is the traditional core of energy, so we should sign more long-term contracts with Saudi Arabia, Iran, and other countries, and promote joint development projects. Nigeria in Africa, Venezuela, and other parts of Latin America also hold abundant resources. China needs to increase investment to secure stable supplies. The domestic energy structure must also be optimized in parallel with vigorous development of wind power, solar, nuclear, and other clean energy sources. Improve energy self-sufficiency. Only then can national energy security be ensured. Energy is the lifeblood of the economy. Diversification ensures peace of mind and enhances pricing power. A Russian victory may cause short-term fluctuations in the global supply chain. China should sort out and optimize its own industrial chain as early as possible. In key fields such as semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, it must achieve self-reliance to avoid over-dependence on imports. The state should increase investment. Policies should tilt toward scientific research. Enterprises must tackle difficulties head-on. Avoid rushing for quick results. Core technologies must be firmly in our own hands. Along the Belt and Road, more industrial parks should be built. Strengthen cooperative production with countries along the route. This will achieve mutual benefit and win-win outcomes, and stabilize supply chains. Ports, railways, and other infrastructure must be improved. Ensure smooth and unimpeded logistics. A resilient supply chain is the cornerstone of economic strength. After Russia's victory, relations between Europe and the United States may undergo subtle changes. China should seize this opportunity. The China-Europe Railway Express should run more frequently. Bilateral trade agreements should be properly negotiated. The European market must not be lost. Africa and Latin America have large populations, abundant resources, and huge potential. China should send more business delegations to actively explore these markets. Customs procedures should be simplified. Digital platforms should be established to facilitate enterprises going global. Trade policies should also be flexibly adjusted, not rigidly stuck to old rules. The global landscape changes in an instant. Our country must also adapt accordingly. On the economic front, the key is to avoid putting all eggs in one basket. Russia's victory is its own momentum. China must consolidate its own lifelines, not be easily manipulated by others. The economy is the foundation of national development. It must be deeply rooted and stable. Finally, on the diplomatic front, we must build goodwill extensively and engage proactively. Avoid falling into isolation. If Russia were to achieve victory, the global geopolitical landscape would undoubtedly be shaken. U.S. influence in Europe might weaken. European countries may become more inclined to make independent decisions. Russia's victory could also prompt some countries to reassess China. This is both a challenge and an opportunity. China should act in accordance with the trend, devote more effort to diplomatic engagement, make broad alliances, enhance its international discourse power. To guard against marginalization, Europe may be the most notable variable after a Russian victory. China should immediately deepen relations with European countries. The China-Europe Railway Express should increase frequency. The investment agreement should be effectively implemented. Trade exchanges should continue to expand. In education and culture, tourism and other soft power exchanges should also be promoted in parallel, fostering mutual understanding among peoples, to avoid estrangement caused by misunderstandings. On climate change, public health, and other global issues, China should work hand in hand with Europe, jointly building the image of a responsible major power. If Europe leans more toward China, our international support will increase. At the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and other international platforms, China should actively offer constructive proposals and push for pragmatic initiatives. Global governance should move toward fairness and justice, rather than being dominated by a few countries. South-South cooperation should also be strengthened by building infrastructure, setting up factories, and other means to assist developing countries, thus enhancing China's influence in the Southern Hemisphere. The banner of multilateralism must fly high, opposing unilateral hegemonic actions and providing the world with a more inclusive solution. International organizations are platforms for amplifying national influence. The louder the voice, the greater the influence. At a time when unilateralism and protectionism are on the rise, China must step forward, playing the role of a mainstay, working closely with the United Nations to jointly address global crises and avoid being seen as standing idly by. We should actively carry out aid and cooperation projects, bringing us closer to other countries, building a community with a shared future for mankind. Diplomacy is not just about flowery rhetoric. It requires real, concrete action. We must uphold our principles and bottom lines, while also winning the hearts of the international community. The essence of diplomatic preparation lies in taking the initiative. Russia's victory is its opportunity, and China must seize its own opportunities. Friends all over the world, with a broad path and a strong voice, one can gain a hearing. We should not be isolated, but let the world see China as a trustworthy partner. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has yet to be settled. The outcome remains hard to predict. However, China must be fully prepared for all possible outcomes. If Russia ultimately achieves victory, we must strengthen our military vigilance, maintain economic stability, and act proactively in diplomacy. These three deployments are closely linked. None can be omitted. As the Chinese proverb says, be vigilant in times of peace. This mindset is especially necessary at present. This is not intended to make enemies of any country, but to ensure we can stand firmly in the world. The world order is ever-changing. We must follow the trend and move forward steadily. In order to stand firm amid complex changes,